so legit.
Hey, it's so good to be here with you all this beautiful, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday morning for me, evening for some. We've got an incredible show ready for everybody, and I am really, really excited. One of my favorite things at Unity is the ability to showcase student work and the amazing products that we try to deliver as an education team to students. My name is Thomas Winkley. I'm a technical marketing advocate here at Unity Technologies, and the focus today is really going to be about Meowmentum, an incredible student-made game that is now turned into a studio, and they are now working full-time on production for it, and Odin, which is an incredible product by Cyrenix that really makes your Unity development journey easier, faster, quicker. Xeon Explorer, I see you in the chat. Hello, Pennsylvania. 2MJNs, good to see you. Britvich, also hello. I assume you're British. If not, okay. But let's bring everybody on, all the guests on, and get going with this amazing, amazing time, because we have got a lot to show you. So, turns out I didn't read the run of show correctly. We're actually... I can't read, so a small secret about me as a member of Unity, they're really nice because I can't read and they still let me work here, which is great. So what we're going to actually do is run a trailer for Meowmentum to show you this incredible game, and then we'll get everybody going. So first things first, y'all, let's check out this trailer for the Best Student Game from Unity Awards of 2023, Meowmentum.
Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. Mori.
Meow.
Meow, 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 meow.
Meow, meow, meow.
Meow, meow, Mori. Meow, meow, meow,
Meow.
meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow.
All right, so we got to check out that incredible trailer, and now we're bringing the gang here to talk about everything. Let's start off by some introductions, and I hate to show bias, but we're going to have to jump forward first to Apoorv because you have another special guest with you, so I have to be biased because you got Kite.
That is true. I do have Kite. His name is Athos, by the way. I'm Apoorv Taneja. So I'm the project lead and technical game designer for Meowmentum, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, and then we can go to Ivan.
Hey everyone, I'm Ivan Restrepo, one of the other technical designers and programmers of the Meowmentum game, and super happy to be here with Unity today.
Awesome, awesome. And we got some amazing friends from the Cyrenix crew. We can start with Tor.
Hey, I'm Tor. I'm the CEO of Cyrenix, one of the original founders who sort of started the whole thing going with Odin in the beginning, and it's awesome to be here today.
Cool. And then Antonio.
Hey, I'm Antonio. I'm a developer at Cyrenix, and I work on Odin Validator, Odin Inspector, and Serializer.
And you have a beautiful fire behind you, which is just wonderful. So are you going to be like turning and warming your hands during the production, or is that just keeping the stuffed animals warm? All right, so we want to start off really by talking about Meowmentum, and I believe the first thing we want to do is talk about, you know, the history of the studio, how you all came to be, and it's my understanding that this started as a student game, right? You all are currently students, I believe, or are you just about to graduate? Like, what's your status?
Recent graduates.
Recent graduates, okay.
Yeah.
Recent
So
graduates.
we work on the project in our spare time now. I wish we were full-time, like you mentioned. But yeah, no, it's just something we're really passionate about, so we want to get it out there. But we met as students at Vancouver Film School's game design program.
Cool.
And so outside of me and Ivan, We have a photo of a team as well. There's so it's me, Ivan, and there's John Santana, Ivan Medina, and Pablo Moctezuma.
Paulo Moctezuma. Yep.
And I think Freeman has that photo. He can probably pop it up for us so you can take a look at the whole crew working on Meowmentum. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Y'all have good taste in button-up shirts, by the way. I'm a big fan of the flower print. Like, it looks really good. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually from production floor, which is at Vancouver Film School. It's really, really good memories. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my first question for you before we dive too far into like your pitch and everything else, I would love to know, where did your idea come from?
Ivan.
Sure. We were inspired by multiple things at the start. Like, as any pre-production team, we pitched what we wanted to do at the start, and it all came out to we want speed and combat. So this game actually was going to be a completely different thing at the beginning. It was going to be like this Mayan temple situation where you had to render your speed to a velocity raptor god of speed. That was the concept that we used to have at that point. But given the scope and the time that we had at the moment, we had to pivot to what the game is right now. But the focus of a speed was always there. We want to do a speed running situation where you felt that you were going so fast in this world. And now I think that the game, it's good at conveying that kind of feel.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's okay. That makes a lot of sense because I was looking through our assets for the production and kind of starting up this morning. And, y'all had this logo with a raptor on it, and I wasn't 100% sure where that came from. I don't know if Freeman can put that up for us, but so this was your original logo then for what you were going to build.
Yep. We started as Momentum Mori, and then we went to Meowmentum Mori, and now we're just Meowmentum.
And where did like that moment come for like, it's time for Meowmentum? Like, when did that flip happen?
It was the same. So when we dropped 2 days into production, we did like 2 months of pre-pro, and we were to the end of it. We're like, yeah, speed and combat, they're both going to be there. And then 2 days into production, we're like, nope, this is too much. And when we cut combat, the thematic kind of fell apart. And then we were like, okay, we need something else. We came up with magic cats, and we were like, well, the name is great. What do we do with it? Throw in a Meowmentum Mori.
Gotcha. And then that's where the puns came in, which I really appreciate. Thank you for doing that. A good pun goes a long way, in my opinion, right? It just adds like some fun sauce, some fun juice to the title.
Oh, we feel the same way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, a question for the Odin crew. Have you had time or a chance to check this out? I know you've got a busy schedule. Have you seen a little bit about Meowmentum yet, or have you had time to play the game at all, or?
I haven't had time to play the game. I was under the very mistaken impression, actually, that it was a VR game. So since I don't have a VR headset, then I couldn't play it. But it's not. So it's much more accessible than I thought. So I'm going to have to go check it out after this because I was just told that before the stream. But the trailer is really funny. I was having a blast watching that. So yeah, that was...
Thank you. Yeah, so Meowmentum is, free to play and own now and forever. Today you can play it on itch for Windows. It'll be on early access on Steam later this year, and full release Steam next year, but free now and forever.
Awesome. The game is super fun. I love that you thought, Tor, that it was a VR game at first, because actually when it got submitted for the Unity Awards, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, this is a VR game, because you see the pause, right? And you see the screen, and you're like, oh, I better get my headset. I'm going to get my headset out. Like, it's time to roll.
Looks like a VR game.
Yeah. And I think that's actually part of the charm, I think, is the way the hands like pull you in. And like, so you've got like the running kite, and then you're trying to grab the walls. Like it does look like at first glance, like very VR, but you're right. It isn't. It's, right now, WebGL on itch.io and soon to Steam, as you were saying. So it's exciting. Yeah. We can move forward with the Meowmentum, but I do want to ask one more question to the Cyrenix friends. Like, what's it like to see technology you've built being used in the hands of students in such a cool way?
I mean, it's super awesome always to see anybody using anything we're making, to produce and to produce stuff, and seeing it in the hands of students especially is super cool. Like, we want to make Odin as accessible as possible, get it out there to help as many people as possible, and yeah, so it's awesome when it comes in as part of students like studying, so they can ideally, we've been told also that it helps when you've built something really cool like this game, right? And Odin helps you build stuff that's really cool, so you can get some really cool projects going that will help you get a job much more easily out in the industry.
Yeah. How about you, Antonio? I know you said you're a dev on the Cyrenix team. Like, what's it like to see like the code you're building, the projects you're building as well out there doing that?
Yeah, so for me, I actually started using Odin myself before I worked for them, and so it's kind of awesome to see. I was in a situation where I was a developer and I used Odin, and now I work for Odin and produce code that other people use now. So I was in both situations, and it's really awesome to see. And I know how I felt when I was in that situation.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that from both of you. I love to hear that perspective, right? Because I think that's one of my favorite parts of being in industry is you see these tools and then you see like that jump back, and then you see like, I think you mentioned it before we were actually going live, Tor. You were like, we were showing some of the Odin stuff that Meowmentum used, and you're like, oh, that's a really interesting idea. That's really cool. I hadn't considered that. And I think we're going to see some of that later on, but I just thought it was interesting, so I wanted to bring that forward. So let's talk about actually building the game. So when you left pre-pro, right? You said you got to the end of your 2 months, you decided to make it a kiddie game, which again, I respect. And I'm sure our purring homie on screen also really, really loves that. It was like, yeah, that's right. Give me that limelight. So if we can pull up the first level slide, like your level 1, your M1 level slide, what was it like building a game that you didn't initially plan for? How did that roll?
Ivan?
Well, yeah. I think that the shift at first was rough for certain parts of the team. You can notice here in the image that artists were focusing like on a stony kind of texture. So it was for the Mayan temple itself. They had to start changing all of that, but they were really efficient in doing that, so props to them for being so adaptable to the situation. The level designer by himself, he was really good with gray scaling all of the levels, so that was fortunately something that was really easy to change at the beginning, because the speed was on from the beginning, right? Unfortunately for a poor finesse, all of the you would say like the areas were easy to shift. So this first levels were one of the moments that we remember the most, and is based on a cat tree like the one Apurv has on his background, because you would fall at the moment after building up so much speed up to that moment to finally thread the needle. And people started to enjoy it once we play tested it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was, Ivan built a really awesome foundation for the movement state. So even though we cut combat, it was pretty easy to keep working with that. And I was able to prototype the orb dashing mechanic as well, along with some, camera and VFX. And yeah, early on, it was hard to tell where we're going. There was a lot of uncertainty because we'd pivoted so hard. But, people started enjoying it and things were getting better for sure.
That's cool. So would you say, because this is something like I think we preach a lot, and so would you say that when you were building your prototype code, you were building out your prototypes and ideas, were you trying to make your prototype code as flexible as possible, or were you kind of coding aggressively and then planning on refactoring later?
I think that's different for the both of us.
Okay. Let's start with you, Ivan.
Sure. I was trying to be flexible, given how variable it has to be, because I wanted to make sure that level designers and us tech designers could experiment as much as we can. So yes, some things that it cannot be. There are some things that cannot be like modular, because there are some states of movement that have to be set from the get-go. But like things of speed, things of where to place certain triggers to change the feel of the game, and that's something that I focused on. That it was modular as much as it could, and I tend to have a plan first before coding, because if not, I get overwhelmed and lost. So I need the plan first. That's for me, at least.
Got it. And how about you, Apurv?
At the start of production, I definitely had to do a mix. I wanted to also follow Ivan's lead and make everything flexible, but because I was technically also project managing, there was a lot of, you know, like front loaded work to organize everything, make sure we're all doing stuff. So with the few tasks that I had to implement, it was only for example, orb dashing was a core mechanic, so I tried to make that modular. But there were little things here and there, like moving platforms, where I'm like, okay, I have 3 hours to make this, so I just like did it. And you know, if it needs to be changed, I'll change it later. But for now, it's like a minor mechanic. We'll leave it as is, kind of thing.
I think I won't forget the moment we merged it all, like both prototype mechanics. You remember it was, well, like a 15 minutes of pure stress, but knowing that at the end it worked so well.
Yeah,
I was so
yeah,
happy
yeah.
it merged everything.
Oh, Thomas, you're saying things, but no one can hear you.
I forgot to unmute myself because I'm a professional. So, your Steam Early Access is coming forward, right? You're ready to go with that.
That's later this year.
Later this year. And so if you take a look, we do have this beautiful image for Perfect Pace. So this is the new and improved Meowmentum right here.
Yep. There was a lot of changes from, you know, early production to, you know, the version that won a Unity Award, and then where we are today. You know, our artists had to take inspiration from lots of different things. Like they looked at movies, games, cartoons, and obviously real life cats and cat furniture, things like that. And all the assets like 3D, 2D UI, they all made it themselves. It's just did an amazing job. Our level designer as well spent hours and hours, you know, iterating on levels, getting playtest feedback. And I think what was awesome is over time we saw more and more people were enjoying it and playing it of their own volition rather than us asking them to play it.
Yeah.
Which I think was like when it started feeling like something special. And Ivan did an amazing job because he, like, I'll let him talk about this, but we were inspired by Esteban, a Unity developer advocate, who came by and talked about netcode for game objects, but then briefly introduced UGS and analytics and leaderboards, which were in beta. And Ivan, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so exactly. We knew of UGS, which was the new thing that Unity was releasing at that time. And thanks to one of our instructors, Scott and Quinn, back in BFS, so kudos to them as well because they're a huge inspiration. Thanks to them, we decided to put a competitive aspect to the game even more, and so the leaderboards came up. And thankfully, UGS has the leaderboards system, which at the moment was a beta, but it was so easy to learn and integrate. They have documentation on it, so that played a huge role of the leaderboards being integrated and we being able to show in every level how to compete with everybody. And that's something that worked really well because on playtesting, people usually came back because they wanted to destroy their own records or the records that have been for that week. So it was really exciting to see people just coming back because of it.
Got it. And I have to say, this looks so different from the build I played last year. You've added a lot of stuff in the last 6-7 months, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, a lot of what we did since graduation was optimization. It's like I know Ivan did a lot as well because we updated all the UGS packages. And then on my part, we actually reworked the whole movement system. So thankfully, because of the work that Ivan did with the base movement states, at least half that code is still there. Nice. But I was able to work with that and modify it. And so the movement we have today is actually the way it works behind the scenes is completely different from how it did as a student project. And my cat wants to go.
Got you. He's finally done being on the stream.
Yeah. But you know, winning the Unity Award was a crazy moment, and none of us really saw it coming, even though we applied for it. And it was super humbling, and still can't believe we're here.
I'm stoked that y'all got that. I mean, you can see just from this loop, right? Like the way the paws lean back while you're speeding, like there's just so much small attention to detail y'all put into the game. So it is definitely well deserved. The game is chaotic and fun. I still remember like the first time we did the review of it. I think I played it for like 45 minutes because I got caught in that I need the top speed loop, right? And there's just like, you can see it here in the loop too. There's different routes you can take. You can kind of cheat the system to find shortcuts. It's well thought out. So great work to both of you and to your whole team. It's a really, really solid game for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Kudos to our level designer as well, who was able to figure all of that out. He taught really well the little shortcuts that we had, and people enjoyed it so much. So kudos to him.
For sure. So let's talk about some of your development process to kind of, you know, tie this all together. So you used Odin as part of your development process. Yeah, let's hear about it. Like, what did you utilize it for? How did you set it up? What was your mission here? How did this support you?
I think Ivan started using it a little more than before I did, so I'll let him get started.
Okay. One thing that Odin provided for us that it's really important and you don't notice when you're starting game development, it's organization and testing for all of it, right? Odin has so many tools on Inspector to show you and modify the way that the inspector shows the thing, right? Or like stores the variable, and you can tell him what to do. And it was so useful for me to set up the inspector in ways that the level designer could understand right away, and so he could do his work while we could continue working. I used it for that. I used it for organization, for variables that needed to be in certain like groups and could be labeled, and for testing as well. And this is the most important thing, because when the data system came up, like time savings and the leaderboards uploads, all of that, because of Odin having the functionality of testing things on code right away, like you could call the thing, that was miracles. I could just press the button, oh, that works, let's continue, we can reset the leaderboards right away. Super useful for me, super modular as well. And I think that for VFX it did wonders as well, which is what a perf. Could dive into a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. So alongside movement, I was working on the feedback system, so again, like VFX and shaders, and then debugging those. And like Odin is what helped me debug those. And we do have I think Freeman pull up like a clip we have as a compilation of two or three examples of how we used it. So especially for the feedback systems, for example, like the wind lines, I was able to serialize an enum and actually just simulate those speed states without having to manually run around and do things like that, and have very precise control over what it looked like at what stage. So you can see that's up there right now. So little things like this, you know, just, it's not impossible without Odin, but God, they make it so easy. Like, yeah. You know, so it was just really, really awesome using the tool. And, you know, part of why we're here today is because we genuinely believe that their tools are awesome, and it's completely free for students, or like if you're a recent grads, there's absolutely no reason not to go and get it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I see more states here serializing enums coming up here, which that would have been super useful on our Twitch stream last year where we spent 45 minutes because we forgot how to do it. So that would be nice and useful, because yes, even professional developers just forget stuff. So again, I think it's a super, super useful tool. I'm glad it was helpful for you as well in what you were building.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're glad as well. Yeah, we're glad as well.
You're like, yeah, us too, because it saved us time.
It absolutely did. Oh, one more thing I forgot actually was that since grad, we had to do one of our updates involved, you know, updating the Unity version to newer LTS and, you know, all our major packages. And Odin Validator saved us like dozens of hours probably by catching all these errors that would have taken so long to find manually, but you could just like fix them in batches, and it's absolute godsend.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear for those that maybe haven't tried this. So, because like generally when you do a package update and you have the console errors, right? Like my process pre-Odin would be look at the console error, go find where it is, and then go do the thing, right? What was different utilizing Odin? I mean, was it seriously a click and track thing, or how did that work for you?
It was so interesting, the things that it can catch, right? Like, oh, these materials are in the wrong format, they haven't been updated for the latest HDRP, and it's like that what kind that you would never have a console log for that kind of thing, right? And like you would be able to select multiple things and fix them at once, and it's just like it helps so much with the workflow. Super grateful to have been able to use it. Yeah.
It's for those kind of mistakes of you have to click one button, but because you don't remember that you have to click that button, you go in a mayhem. So Odin Validator definitely skips that for you.
Got it. Okay. Now I love to hear that. And I think, with that, it might be a good time to slide over and let the Odin team kind of show us how this all works, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much for having us here.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Been an absolute honor.
Thank you so much.
Follow us on Twitter. If nothing, just go play our game. Just go play our game. You don't need to follow any of us. Just go play it. Have fun.
Yeah, play the game for sure. We will be dropping links in the chats for all of you. And it looks like we're actually going to keep you, Apoor and Yvonne, we're going to keep you around if that's okay for a little bit.
Yeah.
And while Tor and Antonio show us how things can be set up, and we'll get that rolling. So,
Sure.
So yeah, with that, we'll get a technical demo for Odin all set up, and it looks like we're going to first run a trailer for the Odin Inspector. Right, so that teaser kind of gives us a feel for what Odin is, what it does. I think there's a lot more that it does as well, though, because there's 3 products that work together, right? You've got Inspector, Serializer, and Validator, and those are the 3 things that really pull this together and make it special. So we definitely showed you how the Inspector stuff worked. The Validator, Apoorv and Ivan really talked about how that does all the work for them and how much time that saved them. I would love to hear from Tor and Antonio a little bit about Serializer as well.
Yeah. So the main part that we see is, for example, you wanna serialize a dictionary in the inspector, right? That's a huge part that people want to do, and Odin can't, and Unity can't do. Or if you have more complex lists, like nested lists, for example, then for the last few years, Unity also couldn't do that, and Odin Serializer sort of makes it possible to serialize basically anything that you can imagine, and it's also free and open source, and it also comes bundled with Odin Inspector. So if you have Odin Inspector, you probably have Odin Serializer as well.
And just to make sure for some of the students in the chat or folks that might be new to game dev, right? So serialization is actually there's a lot more to the definition, but we're talking about exposing those values in the inspector so you can change them, right? So that's why when you're coding, you'll generally have like a serialized field. All right, or just with that attribute, or if you declare something to be public, you can see that actually in the inspector. That's what the serialization piece is happening, so that your designers that you're coding for can actually interact with it without you having to change the code or give them access to your code, which can be dangerous. So
Exactly, and you also want it to persist, right? It doesn't like.
Yep.
If it doesn't stay, then there's no point in filling out the values in the inspector. But it's also a huge part of it.
100%. Yep. So we have some Odin made B-roll we want to show here to show you kind of everything. Let's talk about, how you can get this for free as a student, I believe, and kind of have Antonio have you kind of introduce what we're looking at, right?
Right. So Odin is kind of the umbrella term for the three products as we talked about. There's the Odin Inspector, which is basically a collection of more than 100 attributes. And the workflow there is, or the idea behind it is that you have these small building blocks, so these small attributes that you combine together to create complex UI layouts. So there's like grouping attributes or attributes that control visibility, or that some of them even validate the values and make sure that that are in a specific range. Some of them change how the control works, right? So you can have a slider or an input field or like a progress bar, and make sure that the designer basically has an easier time to work with it. So it's all workflow improvement. And then on top of that, you have the serializer, right, which we already talked about, which is there to actually make the values persist that the designers put in the inspector and actually expose them. And once you have all that going, you also want to make sure that the data that you're putting in is valid, right? And that's where the Odin validator comes in. And that works by you, the developer, creating rules for your specific project. So you have a specific class, and the values have to be in a specific range, or they have to like it can get as complex as you want it to be. And during development, you sort of build up all of these rules, and you have this rule stack. And whenever you make a mistake, or the designer makes a mistake, while he's typing it in, he immediately gets feedback, right? So it's not a thing that you have to run and then wait for it to appear. It's always just in the background telling you, hey, something just went wrong, and then you can just fix it immediately, right? So instead of waiting for like weeks, and then you have these like 100, like 100, 200 errors popping up, right? At the time when you want to build, you only have 10, and then you fix them immediately. Right, and you also can fix them in bulk, so you can press one button and fix all of them if they have like an automatic fix available, which you can also define. And of course, it also comes with a few built-in rules as well, right? For the as the guys just said, for example, for the HRP materials, and it also has some for missing scripts and stuff like that. But of course, validation is kind of project-specific, a big part of it. So it kind of grows with the project and with the team. And then together they sort of build this entire deck, I would say, where you have the UI input, the data input, you have the data persistency, and then you have the data validation. And all of that together then builds this nice workflow that we intended.
This is awesome. This is incredible. I know I can see some folks in chat are like, oh my gosh, wow. We're seeing definitely a lot of reactions of folks excited to see kind of, how this rolls forward. So with that, I believe you had plans to show us how to actually take advantage of this, right? How to use this live?
Yeah, so I can take you guys through some basic rudimentary usage of Odin, like the stuff you'd get like basically out of the box, and just show you the basic layout of everything. So here we have the getting started window. This is the first thing you see when you install Odin. It'll pop up and be like, everything is working great, everything is installed. And like there's here you can go and there's a variety of tutorials, guides, and various information and helpful packages you can try and install and check out. You can get into the attribute overview, and the attributes are these building blocks that Antonio were talking about, where we have over 100. We lose count. There's a bunch of them. We keep adding more all the time. But here you can see like how do they use, like how do they work, what do they do? You can see an interactive example. You've got the code here and so on. So there's this searchable overview of everything that you could use Odin for, all the basic building blocks you can use. And let's go use some of those then. So we have a very rudimentary like toy example set up here, but it'll show you the basic idea. So let's say we've got these sort of characters, and there are some scriptable object types that, and we have this basic inspector for them, right? And this is the normal, like, vanilla Unity inspector, basically. Except, I mean, there's a few little things. You can see Odin has, for example, given this little thing here, where you can sort of click it and it'll open the inspector, or you can right-click it and it'll do a little inline one. And like, there's a few little sort of, even if you don't do anything, Odin will upgrade the inspector for you, or like the list is nicer and easier to reorder and so on.
Which, to be fair, that in and of itself is an incredible ad.
Yeah, it's we might as well, now that we're taking over the drawing for everything in Unity, right? Then we might as well give it a little spruce up. But let's put some attributes on this thing and make it look a little bit nicer and more organized. So let me get up Visual Studio here, and I will pin that to the foreground so we can make some edits and see the changes as they happen. So let me just put up this here. And so here we've got the character class, and like there's a bunch of different things we might want to do here. For example, right? Let's say that we would like to make a preview field out of this thing here. We need to import Odin, of course. Almost forgot that. And let's say that we'd like to give this a specific height or something. And then if I save, you can see this should recompile out in the background here. And let's see here. Yeah, okay, I need to focus over there. Yeah, and then now we got this nice little preview field here. So that's the basic workflow, right? You add an attribute, the inspector changes in some way. And let's see here. So we might want to do a bunch of different things here. Like let's organize this a little bit. If I could actually type, that would be great. We could do this, and we could sort of try and say, why is this thing not typing the way I'd like it to? It's
because you're doing a live demo. It's just how it works.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works, right? Let's say we would like to put this into a 64 wide horizontal segment of a group, right? And then we can put this in here, and hey, see there, that was oh, it's because I'm pressing tab. Okay, interesting. Well, let me not do that then. And so here I'm using some grouping attributes to sort of arrange this in a basic way. You can see now here we've got like, it's sort of been arranged in a slightly nicer way. You can still change this, right, with the preview field, but maybe we want to do like a text area here and say like 2 lines by default or something. And then we've got a bit more, room to type with. The second this thing, it wants 2. And here we go. Yeah. And so you just keep going. You basically add a few things here. Like you can keep going with like, how much do you really want this to be, right? Like, do you say, would you, so let's ask. This is range, incidentally, is actually a Unity one. You'll notice something just happened over here. That's the validator going. We'll get to that in a second. You can see it's happening live always. Range is actually a Unity attribute that we, of course, also have extended extra support for. There's also like we've got this sort of inline class here, which is like this drop down here, and you can also do stuff like, for example. Like you can, if you put attributes or these building blocks on classes, then they'll go on them wherever they are. So you don't even need to remember. Let's say I want to say anywhere that I use an ability, I would like it to be presented in this specific way. Like maybe I don't actually want like, maybe I don't want like the label to be like this. I would like it to be sort of more inline, kind of like a vector 3 is inline. It's got like the 3 fields next to the label instead. Do I have compilers right now? No, I don't. Oh, I didn't save. That would be why.
Control S will get you every time.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can hide the label, and like we can say, I would like this always to be in a box group that says like this is an ability. And if I could spell correctly, then that would also be wonderful. So. And then here you can see, now we've sort of improved this a little bit. We can keep going, toggle buttons. You see there's many different little building blocks here. There's the button attribute. This is a favorite of many people. It was mentioned just now by the Meowmentum team, where because it's so handy. Like if I just say like, oh, I'd like to just to get an example, right? Like sure, that was a fine suggestion. Casting, whatever. I don't know why. Let's see, like that. Then you can see that when I click this, then we start getting here in the console, we get like, it just runs the code. And so you can just like have a method you want to test, just put button on it. And like, even if there's parameters, you can just enter in the parameters and click run, and then it'll run the...
That is so powerful. I can't believe you just did that so quickly too.
And is this still pinned? Nope, it's not. Okay, let's do like, there you go. Well, that seems like Windows Partoys is messing with me here, but luckily I'm just about done editing the code. We've also got like the very easy way of making editor windows. Like there's not just the attributes. Odin's a whole very large suite of tools basically for creating editor like customization. So you can also create your own editor windows. If I bring this up here, then we've got this characters menu editor window. So let's say you have like, so the project view is great, right? You can see everything in there. It can get kind of overwhelming and disorganized sometimes. Sometimes maybe you want to present like, you have like a more cohesive overview of a certain part of the project. And so the menu editor window from Odin, the Odin menu editor window here, is a very handy way of getting that. So let's see, there's a little bit of boilerplate that Unity sort of makes you do. You want to have a window, well, you need to define some way of opening it. In this case, we've added it to tools, characters, and then it goes on the screen. So let me drag it over here. And here you can see that we've got like all of these characters that are now defined. Of course, anywhere Odin draws them, it's going to be like it draws the fully modified inspector. And you can see here that we've got, there's actually some issues here. So maybe we should go look at those. We've got the validator has been sitting here in the corner. There's always this widget here that is in the corner as long as it's activated. Just scanning the project constantly all the time. So it's caught a few issues. It seems like we've got some errors or warnings rather in the scene. It says, oh, hey, this is probably a bad position for an object. That's kind of crazy. You should maybe not position an object at like 10 billion off to the side. So let's maybe fix that. And here's a missing component, like something has happened here. I'm not sure what that might be. I don't actually, I'm just gonna remove this for now. That fixes that. And then we've got two numbers here that weren't in a range. And I'm just gonna say, look, let's fix that. And then it just sets it to the closest thing that's within the range. So range is one of those that offers an automatic fix in case you would like to use it. And, you know, there's many different things you can do with this. Let's say that, look, every single character needs to have a name, okay? And if I don't know why I keep doing that. So every time I use a specific key, so my instincts are messing with me here. So let's say that we want every single time, like when there's a character name, well, we would like a character needs a name no matter what, right? So now we could go through all of these and be like, oh, what's this guy? Well, we can see we've already got the assets named here, but like, oh, maybe I go and I copy paste this in here and I fix them one at a time. Or we could also decide to provide a fix for this. And here I'm going to do something called a custom validator. So this is how you can define more like sophisticated rules and define exactly what sort of fixes you want to be available for your issues. So we have an empty validator here set up that says, look, I would like, we're registering the validator and we're saying, I would like to validate all characters in the project. And it's going to validate characters in scenes. It's going to validate characters and assets anywhere it finds one of these things, even if it's like a necessarily, now it's a root object validator. So it's only going to validate like the root asset instances everywhere. But if you made it just like a value validator, it would validate even instances of a character appearing in another script. Like if I say a value validator for ability, well, anywhere an ability appears in the entire project, then it's going to validate that ability. You can do that for anything, like a string. All strings in the entire project are going to be validated. But let's say here, so now that I type here, let's say I'm gonna type and I don't understand what is happening there. 1 second. I'm gonna do one little very, very quick thing here if I can. Yes. And I'm gonna turn off Power Toys because it is really messing with it. There you go. I think I'm now actually able to type. Okay, so I was wrong.
It's because we're doing it live. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's ready for you.
It's ready for me. I'm gonna reboot Visual Studio. That is what I'm gonna do. There you go. Perfect. I
have to say-
apologize. I ran through this demo just before, but as always,
As always, nothing breaks until you turn the stream on. So don't even worry about it. I have to say, I love like the message UI as well. Like the checklist doer in me really loves like as the errors are solved, you get that nice little clean check mark. It's a nice touch. It's really, really, really good. And I'm also very glad you named one of your character. I think it's Thornback, but it kind of looks like Tomback, so I'm calling him Tomback, the Ravager.
Tomback the Ravager. We can make that happen. Let's say here. Okay, Visual Studio is starting up. The process was crashing, so that is what was going on there. And then we just wait for lovely Visual Studio to actually open.
The load times.
Yes.
Just to
Actually,
chime
so
in-
what I'm going to do instead, is I have everything in Git here, so I'm just going to revert a specific change. That's going to change the script. We can go look at it here. I'm just going to hack around Visual Studio.
Yeah.
So I've added the script here, where we just say if string.isNull or white space value.character name. So if the character name isn't null or there isn't or only white space in it, then we're going to add an error and say that, hey, the name is required. And we're going to say a fix where we just set the character name to be the name of the asset. So now this issue is going to offer that as a fix. So, and then of course I do have required on it in here, but I'm going to just remove that also using Git, which is great. So now we only get the not duplicate issue because I still have the required attribute on the field. And then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to bulk fix it. I'm just going to say fix now. And then it has fixed all of these issues. And now we can see wherever we go, all of these have been set. So that's the basic workflow of the validator as well. You can define these custom rules and define how they get fixed as well. And this can get as complicated as you want.
That's incredible. And Porp, I saw you unmuted earlier to say something. I would love to hear what you're going to
sorry.
jump in on as well. Oh, no problem.
Oh, no, it was the tiniest thing. It was just like very similar experience seeing all the red error icons turn into green ticks. There's something so satisfying.
Good.
Yeah.
I love it every time.
Yeah,
I absolutely do.
Yes,
And this is a private little thing as well, but this little, whenever this icon is changing or spinning, like if I go say, hey, rerun that, and then the shader effect that we coded to make that happen is incredibly involved. Like it's like a composed sine distance field thing, but I know it's a little stupid detail, but I love it. I always have to mention that.
That's super worth it too. Like, especially when you've put the effort in to make something so involved, right? And then seeing it work, it feels good. It feels awesome. Yeah. And there's so many like powerful things you can do with Odin. Yeah, there's just so much.
It's hard to cover everything because Odin is just an incredibly big tooling suite, right? And there's a massive API for doing absolutely everything, from menu editor windows to different kinds of validation, and just also utilities for common sorts of things you want to do in the editor every now and again.
And I think the thing that I'm super excited about, to get a little salesy, is that students just get this now. Like, students just have access to this, and it's something that y'all have been doing for a while. But now we're able to help you push this to go to all students. So if you have the Unity student plan whatsoever, as part of that, now you're going to have access to all of these tools to help your student games work better, be built better, keep enhancing, and make your workflow better, as we showed with what Apoorv and Yvonne did, right? Just give you access to all this power really, really quickly, and so you don't have to stress about some of the stuff that you might have to build otherwise if you're trying to build your own custom tools pipeline or build out your own settings, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always worth it to have a tooling pipeline for your game. Practically, it's just, can you get there in time to actually finish your game, right? And Odin makes it so much more easily to like actually get your tooling in place instead of having to constantly develop and maintain it. And go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I was just going to add to that, so keep going, please.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been trying to get Odin to students for a while, as you mentioned, right? And been providing it for a while, but now in collaboration with Unity, we're finally getting into your educational plan, which is just awesome because now we can actually reach everybody with this and make sure that it can really help everyone.
Yeah, and
so we're super excited about that.
I'm pumped. Like it's something I know we've been talking about it for quite a while to get this all set up. I know we were talking before the stream. It's like, man, we've been working on this for months, right? And there's a lot of producty stuff that has to happen and legal agreements and whatever else, but it's just so cool to see that it's available, right? And Odin has always been such a powerful tool, and y'all are doing such incredible dev work on it. I guess I would love to ask about that too. I mean, what's the journey been like building Odin, building the inspector and serializer and validator since the beginning? I mean, what's it been like?
I mean, it started way back when we started Odin. We never intended to build it, really, right? It sort of came about out of frustration because we wanted to have all these nice tools and we couldn't. And there were some solutions that were sort of trying to do something vaguely like it. We're using something called Vector Framework, which was, it was great. It was free, but it didn't work. Really, it was very slow, it was very buggy, very broken, and so on. We were building a game, and we just needed the tooling to do it. And then we started building all this tooling, and finally we were like, oh, this is actually great. We should just be doing this instead. And then out of it came Odin, and then later Odin Validator. So that's sort of, and then it's just been slow and steady incremental growth. There's always something to do, right? Something is not as nice as it could be, or there's some new feature on the horizon that people are asking for, something that could be improved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's so much good. And a big shout out, by the way, to the Mortal Crux crew that just got raided in. If y'all haven't checked out that Made with Unity title, I've been following them on Twitter for a while. The game looks sick. You should go take a look at it. So good to see you, Mortal Crux. Amazing. Well, and I think we just gave a quick demo, and you mentioned like, okay, there's so much to learn, right? And it's such a massive API you have to be figuring out. But you do have tutorials to help the students master these and master everything, right? And there's a lot of stuff available to help them do that, correct?
Yes, we have a massive amount of tutorials on our website. Antonio, that's the other way around, has been making a lot of them, and he's been doing a great job setting up our tutorials.
Yeah, and I also think one cool thing, especially if you're a student, is we have documentation in Unity itself, so you can, maybe we can show the screenshot one time.
Yes.
Where you can sort of see every single attribute, what it does with examples, code examples as well. And that would be a great first start if you're new to Odin. Just go there and see what attributes are available, what you can do with them, play with the inspectors that you see there.
Yeah, we have a way of setting out like a script, so you can just go play with it yourself if you want, or you just copy the code here and then it's in your, like you can get it in different variants and so on, so you can easily play around with this yourself.
And it is clear to me that y'all are a master of editor extensions for sure. Like the way your windows are laid out, everything is so clean. Definitely a lot of masterwork coming in from the Odin team on this. And if you want, even more resources to dive deeper and more information on, things made with Odin to get a feel for just how much they've stretched across the industry, we just dropped some links in chat for you as well to check out the Made with Odin page and all the amazing stuff that's been done there. It goes well beyond just student games, right? Like we are here today because I want to let every student on the planet know that you can now have Odin. We want you all to get it, make your development pipeline better so you can make cool games like Apurv and Yvonne did. But, Odin is a tool that everybody, in my opinion, should be integrating into their workflow. Like you should just be using it. We've had quite a few people in chat drop the "Hey Unity, please buy Odin." So I think there's definitely like a lot of community support for how good this tool is. It's great. Like you should be using this in your development process. This should be part of what you do if you're creating a game, I think. That's a Thomas Winkley opinion, TM, not a. But I mean, it's a great tool.
Thank you.
I think, you know, with that, we don't have a ton more content to jump in for everybody. I would love to ask, you know, from Apor and Yvonne, any final thoughts, final messages from y'all before we maybe wrap the day off and, you know, head back to the workday grind, at least for me.
Shout out Vancouver Film School. Shout out Quinn Henshaw. He's our Unity instructor. He's an absolute wizard. Shout out to the whole team. John Santana, Ivan Medina, Pablo Moctezuma. They're all talented, amazing people. We would not be here as individuals. We'd only here because of the whole team and everyone who supported us, our instructors, our classmates, etc., etc. Go play the game. Please follow us for sure. But if you don't want to follow us, just go play the game. Just have fun.
Available on itch right now. Remember, early access on Steam later this year. That's right.
All right,
And Odin is awesome. Sorry.
No, you're good. No problem at all. No problem at all. From the Odin crew, anything we missed? Any final messages before we call it a day?
No, I think this has been awesome. Thank you for having us, and thank you for using Odin in your project. I'm glad we're glad that you got something out of it. And if you're a student, then absolutely go check out Odin now because it's free. So it's you might as well, because there's a very high chance that it could help you out a lot in the development of your projects.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. Please stay tuned. Keep tuning into what the Unity education team is doing. We are constantly striving and building everything we can to make the game development journey better for all of you students, to make sure we can support all of you and really put you in a position that can make you successful in the future. So you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot more from us. Keep your eyes peeled. Huge thank you to Freeman for running the production behind the scenes for us. The man is a wizard. Without him, they wouldn't let us turn on the internet this way. And we have the cloud live stream back here tomorrow. So if you want to see what's going on with all the Unity cloud settings and everything we've got coming forward with our cloud platform, tomorrow, I believe the same time, and of course the same channel. So hit that follow button. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning it in. We're going to send you over to Lana Lux, and you'll have a wonderful rest of the Tuesday.